Hi, thanks for joining our new video. Today we review the Galaxy A36 5G. Let's start. This device is part of Samsung's mid-range, although its launch price was higher than we would like. It was announced at 7,499 pesos, which is more or less 380, although remember that prices here are not the same as over there. With this price, it gets to compete in a higher segment than I would like, so I would not recommend you to buy it at this price. Although you know that Samsung always tends to apply immediate discounts or very attractive promotions. It's also available through various distributors like Samsung stores, Amazon, Mercado Libre, department stores and phone companies. At the time of this recording, you might find it for 4,999 pesos or under 6,000 pesos, a more appealing price. However, we'll analyze this device based solely on its launch price. Let's start with the design. As on the front, we are going to find bezels that are not so reduced. In fact, it looks with noticeably thick bezels for its price, especially for the lower bezel, aesthetically. It is not such an attractive point, although in terms of resistance could possibly help a little against lateral falls. It comes protected with Gorilla Glass Victus Plus, which I think helps quite well in the price range, competes perfectly, so if you find it on promotion would be even better. Keep in mind that the frames are made of plastic, so they won't defend it as effectively as they would with the Galaxy A36. Just to give an example, on the right side it retains the island of keys, featuring a small relief where the volume buttons and the power button are located, adding a nice aesthetic touch. At the top we have two microphones, and on the left side there are no ports or buttons. This side view simply allows you to observe its thickness, which is 7.4 millimeters. You know, Samsung adopts a strategy to ensure their devices are incredibly thin and light, which is why this device weighs just 195 grams. In this regard, I believe it meets expectations quite well. Now, looking at the bottom, we can see the tray, which is designed to support only one SIM card. Curiously, this could lower. May differ elsewhere, but some models have dual SIM. Additionally, there are two microphones located on this bottom part, along with the USB-C port. Lastly, there's the speaker perforation, which is a wide opening instead of a grill. This design choice adds a very nice aesthetic touch. On the back cover, we also find glass, in this case, Gorilla Glass Victus Plus, like the front, so it has a good level of resistance. It is available in light green color, which is the one I have in my hands, also light violet, gray and black. There is a good palette of colors to choose from, which is a positive point and would be something of the appeal of this cell phone. Another appealing feature is the floating camera module, which slightly rises to add an aesthetic touch in a cell phone market where designs often look alike. With large circular modules centered, Samsung opts for a more minimalist and simple design, plus it has IP67, with a good enough level of water resistance, although not as high as in the high-end, and also consider that other manufacturers are already putting IP68 and IP69. Although anyway, if it can be submerged, so I do not know if you need much more than this, but I mention it because in the industry is no longer the highest, although in this price range, I think it competes perfectly well. The screen measures 6.7 inches diagonally with full HD resolution, a pixel density of 384 pixels per inch, ensuring good detail in images, text and more. It features a Super AMOLED screen with vivid colors and high contrast, offering two color calibrations. More intense or softer colors with the natural setting, but the vivid setting includes manual white balance, RGB, and color intensity settings. Therefore, I believe you can achieve the kind of color rendering that you most prefer and like the best, easily. Regarding brightness, this display achieves a global level of an ASEN 200 nits, providing excellent visibility outdoors. It also includes Vision Booster technology, which, as you might be aware, adjusts the colors and contrast slightly. This feature ensures that when you're in direct sunlight, the screen remains readable with enhanced clarity. It also supports HDR content, although in this case can only be enjoyed on YouTube, at least in my tests, because in Netflix does not appear available, nor Instagram photos seem to be compatible with HDR, nor in Instagram videos or something like that. Then it is a little more limited HDR compared to other devices, but I think it still complies for the price range. And with respect to the minimum brightness, if we are going to find ourselves with something comfortable, since the brightness drops considerably, although it does not have a very high dimming rate. In fact, Samsung does not share this information then for the ultra sensitive to the eyelid. If you've ever noticed anything when your screen's brightness was low, here we don't have anything that advanced. However, in my experience, I have never seen any flickering on the screen, so I don't consider this a disadvantage or anything similar. The screen is still very comfortable at the lowest brightness, only there are other manufacturers that offer very high detonation rate, presuming something better, and also if you have the option of extra dimming within the accessibility options to further lower the brightness. Finally, it has 120 Hz for fairly fluid movements on screen, so it competes perfectly well. This device offers integrated stereo sound through two speakers, one located at the bottom and another in the earpiece area. For phone calls, we've ensured the sound amplitude is maintained. Although it may not be as loud as some other cell phones, it delivers high-quality sound. This is largely due to the 9-band equalizer provided. While the first 2 bands cannot be adjusted when using the speaker, you can still attain excellent sound quality. I truly enjoyed the experience. Let's take a moment to listen to a brief test. However, do keep in mind that it's not quite the same as hearing it live. It additionally incorporates a feature known as volume normalization, which proves to be extremely beneficial when you are watching something like movies or any other content where the audio unexpectedly becomes too loud or too quiet. Furthermore, it enables us to establish various equalization profiles tailored for specific applications, which is quite useful. Although the method to apply this is somewhat unconventional, you need to press and hold the volume bar within the control center to select a different equalizer. Once you do that, it will then show up in the list. Settings menu. So its implementation doesn't seem to me the most adequate, but it is something good that so far I haven't seen in other cell phones. And I remind you that by installing Good Lock and Sound Assistant, which are official Samsung applications, you could also manipulate the volume individually for each application. In case you like to have 2 apps playing at the same time, you can adjust their volume independently, which comes in handy. It features Adapt Sound, allowing the device to adjust the sound type based on your listening habits after running tests. Additionally, it includes an optimizer to enhance audio resolution when using the speaker or headphones. Lastly, it also features independent application sound, a function that enables us to direct the audio of certain applications to the connected Bluetooth speakers while retaining the sound of other applications on the cell phone. This is particularly useful at parties, where you can enjoy music playing on the speaker and simultaneously watch videos on your cell phone or do something similar. And as you can see, the device does not have a headphone jack included. However, when it comes to wireless headphones, if you have advanced codecs such as aptX, LDSAC, and SSC, it would only be missing LHDC. So, in my opinion, considering its price, it competes quite well in this aspect. Additionally, the device is equipped with 4 microphones placed around it, which is very useful for trying to reduce noise and improve its performance. Now let's go ahead and listen to a test.
Es una prueba grabada con los micrófonos integrados del Galaxy A36 5G.
As you can notice, your voice is picked up exceptionally well. Additionally, while you're on a call, you have the ability to slide the control panel down and observe that there are 3 distinct modes of... The 3 modes are standard, voice highlight, or full spectrum. If you want nothing but your voice to be heard, you can use voice highlight mode. But if you want to share music or want other noises all around you to be heard, you can select full spectrum, giving a very good experience that is generally not seen on other Android devices. Next, we will attempt to examine its behavior in extremely noisy settings. As you notice, they have a good performance, no distortions or anything serious. What I did not like about this cell phone is that the vibration motor is on the Z-axis, although it does have an intensity selector, which is something uncommon in devices that have this type of vibration motors. So we could say that within the Z-axis motors, this is one of the best, but it still feels inferior to the motors on the axis. Vibration will not be as premium. The front camera features a 12 megapixel resolution with an f2.2 aperture and fixed focus placed in a circular cutout at the top of the screen. For fast aperture, you know you can double press the power button whether your screen is off or on. Then you can rotate between the 2 cameras the same way. The device provides 2 amplitude levels, but the capture isn't very agile. Sliding the shutter down gives access to a burst, which few smartphones offer. The following will be available. A good list with a top shortcut. In fact, enabling options, you'll immediately notice a dedicated quick shortcut button will show up at the top, and if you're not using it, it will vanish, which I find quite cool. This gives us fast access to the 2, 5 or 10-second timer. Additionally, you can modify the image ratio and the motion photography feature, which, as you know, records a kind of short video while capturing the picture, allowing you to make use of it later on. You can make it a simple clip. Interestingly, in this particular case, it does not feature the bounce and similar effects that are typically found in the more premium Galaxy smartphones. Additionally, we have access to various color filters which we can preview in real time. Notably, these filters offer 4 distinct adjustment parameters. Moreover, you have the option to create your own preset based on the colorization that another image might have. So, if you appreciate how an image appears after being edited, you can go ahead and attach it, and you'll achieve a similar color effect. Finally, we also discover the beauty mode, which includes 4 distinct skin blurring parameters: illumination, jaw size, and eye size. In this case, I set all the parameters to the maximum, and this has been the result. In addition, I remind you that it also integrates the capture by gesture with the palm of the hand, very easy. In fact, it also has voice commands. Or you can use the volume buttons, or you could also create a floating button to place it where you want and have it more at your fingertips. Note that it also has the fun mode, which is basically Snapchat integrated directly into the cell phone camera, so it has a higher level of optimization. You don't even need to install Snapchat, and you can already take advantage of this type of effects, which comes in handy as a good collaboration. Let's see the results, since in the price range I think it competes in a good way. Samsung always tends to place good cameras, and in this case will be no exception. We will discover a satisfactory level of detail and also a color rendering that is quite acceptable. It's important to keep in mind that the camera is equipped with a fixed focus, therefore maintaining an optimal distance is essential. Fortunately, in this particular instance, it appears that achieving a good focus is possible with the arm extended to its full length, or perhaps even a bit further. Close. In backlit scenarios, note that the preview is not well optimized, so it looks burnt, but the result after processing is positive. If you manage to see a balance of highlights and shadows, although it still looks slightly overexposed, but for the price range, I think the result is positive. At night, the result is still positive. It is true that it keeps a little grainy, but at the same time, it also maintains a good level of detail, so we cannot complain. The color accuracy is not the most complete, but for the price range, the result is good. In backlit night scenes, it's very complicated that this device seems to me to solve according to its price. If you use the screen as a flash simulation, personally I did not like the result, and with regard to night portraits, it is noted that if we happen to find a significant amount of grain in the facial area, it might not be very advisable to take these types of photographs. However, on the day we observe that the bokeh effect applied to the background is quite nice. Unfortunately, it doesn't keep the objects in focus, but that's a normal behavior within the range, we could say that. It's something that falls within the expected range. On the back, we have 3 cameras. First, the 16mm ultra-wide camera with an f2.2 aperture and fixed focus, featuring an 8-megapixel sensor. And next, the 25mm main camera with an f1.8 aperture, autofocus and optical stabilization, housing a 50-megapixel sensor. Lastly, the 2-megapixel macro camera with an f2 aperture. Note that here it provides a basic speed for continuous shots, not very remarkable, but sliding the shutter gives a fast enough burst for the range. During our test, when attempting to capture the number 3, we observed that it takes nearly half a second before the picture is actually taken. Therefore, it's not advisable if you are into taking very fast or agile photographs. Interestingly, the burst mode took less time to activate, and as you can see, there's quite a significant gap between each photo. So, while it may not be the best option, it does allow for an extended burst of up to 30 photos. Regarding the software features, it offers the same options that we observe for the front camera. This includes beauty mode, which is something that isn't very common inside the rear camera of the smartphones. In this category, if you tap on the screen, you can adjust the focus or exposure. Also, keep in mind that you can access the Pro mode, where you have additional parameters like ISO, which can reach up to 3200, shutter speed, which can extend up to 10 seconds, exposure compensation, focus, and additionally, white balance. Note that you can take raw photos, a downside compared to others. At the top, there's a button to activate metering type. Matrix or spot metering if you prefer these over center weighted metering. Also, for intelligent capture options, this includes document recognition directly from the main interface. In this particular situation, you will need to press the button that you will find in the lower right-hand corner. Once you do that, you will notice that it will instantly start a scanning process. Although this process is straightforward, it does not offer the option to apply color filters, nor does it allow you to add multiple pages or perform any similar tasks. It is simply a smart cropping of the camera doesn't remove fingerprints or smudges, but it's simple. Fortunately, it includes QR code recognition directly from the main interface, which works well. Let's take a look at the results. This is with the ultra-wide camera. I think it doesn't have such an attractive color representation, but for the price range it competes well, considering that some other devices don't even include an ultra-wide camera at these prices. Obviously we are not in front of such a high-quality camera, but it does allow us to capture sufficiently wide and without too much distortion. On the edges, the main camera shows improvement, even though it still doesn't provide a 100% accurate color representation. However, this is understandable given the price range. What should really be highlighted here is that it offers a good level of detail. Additionally, we must consider that it provides us with a 2x zoom of very good quality. It's worth noting that we could almost say it maintains optical quality, making the short-range zoom quite impressive. Here we are going to appreciate the ultra-wide camera, main camera and crop 2x, so you can see that in all these focal lengths it does maintain a good level of detail. Beyond that, note that at zoom 510 we're going to have a quality that seems to be starting to fade. I would consider that the maximum zoom of good quality would be 5x, but the device lets you go up to 10x, where from my point of view, it no longer maintains as much quality. However, if you'd rather zoom out instead of getting closer, take a look here. First, there's the main camera, followed by the ultra-wide camera, and finally, the panoramic mode. This mode allows us to utilize the ultra-wide camera, which is incredible because from this very same distance, we can capture all these different perspectives. Moreover, the panoramic mode is well balanced between lights and shadows, providing a good dynamic range. We know that the ultra-wide camera doesn't have the highest quality, but when it comes to taking wide photographs, using the panoramic mode along with the ultra-wide camera can be a great idea. Note that in backlit scenarios we will not find an optimized preview, but the result is positive in terms of light and shadow balance. In addition, there is no chromatic aberration at the edges, this with the main camera. With the ultra-wide camera, the good balance of light and shadow is maintained, which is quite positive overall, although you begin to notice a bit more chromatic aberration, particularly around the edges. However, considering the price, I believe it's a good quality ultra-wide camera. Even with the zoom 2x crop, we are still going to observe a nice balance of lights and shadows, which is quite outstanding. Therefore, the device has a very good camera for night shots. Additionally, the ultra-wide camera also performs well. Of course, given the price, we are not going to find an extremely high level of detail or anything similar to that. However, I really like the outcome. With the night mode activated, we will actually achieve an even cleaner and clearer picture. It will help us better control the noise that might appear, even though there's still a bit of graininess present. But I insist, for being a mid-range, I think the photographic performance is really good. With the main camera, it maintains a very similar performance. Samsung has always had some complications to keep the lighting well contained at the maximum point, so being very demanding, the photography is not excellent, but considering that it is a mid-range, the result is good. It should be noted that if you use the night mode, it will improve considerably. It raises the saturation of colors, improves contrast, and above all, as I say, improves the interpretation of the most illuminated areas, so it is recommended to use the night mode, and with this the photograph rises a lot of level. Applying zoom 210 at night does not keep as much detail as in the day, but the performance is still good. If there is no lighting present within the frame, the ultra-wide camera still performs quite remarkably well during the night. The main camera seems to overexpose a bit in the darker areas. It appears that it might not be such a specialist in night photography, but it remains acceptable for the mid-range. As I mentioned, the 2x zoom doesn't hold as much detail as it did in the daytime, yet it still performs well. When you take moving pictures during the daytime, they are going to turn out quite sharp. Now, when it comes to macro photography, this is about as close as you can get with the main camera. In fact, it has a remarkably close focus capability, and the results are quite nice. If you decide to apply a 2x digital zoom, I believe the outcome is positive, as you can observe good details. Now, this is the result you would get with a macro camera. Honestly, it looks very similar to the outcome you achieve with the main camera when you apply a 2x zoom, so I really don't see much benefit in integrating the macro camera. The device also allows us to take high-resolution photos, however. Note that they actually come out very poorly defined. The result is not attractive at all. Finally, the portrait photography. Let's say that it is simple because it does not allow us to use the 2x zoom perspective, which would have been much better. Additionally, the color rendition appears to lack accuracy. While the detection of the foreground and background is positive in various aspects, the blur effect does not seem particularly professional, and there are still some noticeable gaps. So I think it is very simple in this sense. For video recording, we will find 4K at 30 frames per second, both with the rear camera and with the front camera. In Full HD, we could get up to 60 frames per second, but only with the main camera, so the ultra-wide camera only records in Full HD at 30 frames per second. Note that when recording a video, we will have access to a button to take pictures, another button to rotate to the front camera, although the change takes a little while, but there are other cell phones that don't allow this action while recording. They let you. Additionally, you can pause and then continue recording. And take note that it also offers the option to smoothly transition between the ultra-wide camera and the main camera without needing to stop the video recording. This provides a much more premium experience, which is unlike other cell phones. It even enables us to turn on the flashlight without interrupting the recording, so it has some very good settings. Furthermore, if you tap on the screen, you can also adjust the exposure or lock the focus. At the very top, you'll find the Super Stable mode, which you can easily activate whenever you feel the need for it. It's worth noting that within the complete list of available modes, you'll also discover the Pro Video mode. This mode allows us to manipulate a variety of parameters, much like what we observed in photography, even while recording. For instance, we have the ability to adjust the white balance or focus entirely to our preferences. This is another feature that is quite rare in this category. Let's examine the results in more detail. The ultra-wide camera is unable to record in 4K, yet it manages to deliver satisfactory color and contrast. It may not be ultra-spectacular, but considering its range, it performs well. I appreciate that recording in Full HD allows us to switch between the ultra-wide and main cameras. This feature is not often found in mid-range devices. However, the transition between the lenses is abrupt, meaning there is no intermediate zoom available between them. However, as I often mention, it is indeed a positive aspect that allows us to smoothly transition between one lens and another. This capability serves the purpose of enabling us to see either more or less, depending on our needs. The two cameras have a similar color, not exactly the same, but the change between the color of one camera and the other is not as abrupt as it could happen in other devices. The main camera, if it has the ability to record video in 4K, that is something very prominent, especially if you are going to find it with discount, because it is something that is still not so common in the mid-range. We'll find a good level of detail, though shooting in 4K adds some grain in spots, but it's demanding. It shoots well for the range. The max zoom is 10x as shown, but here the detail drops, showing more pixels, noise, and flicker. So, the zoom isn't very nice. I would think that at most you could go to a 4x zoom, where you still notice good quality. In backlit scenarios, note that the ultra-wide camera performs well enough if you notice overexposure in the more brightly lit area when a face is present, especially if it's a little closer to the frame, but fortunately you don't get to notice such aggressive changes in exposure. The main camera improves in this recording, balancing highlights and shadows well without aggressive exposure jumps if changes occur, but they're not abrupt. If the face is closer, it still balances well, which is positive. Now, we see the ultra-wide camera at night, where there's noticeable noise that it tries to eliminate, removing details too. It is clear that at night it will not be a great exponent, but in the mid-range, no ultra-wide camera is going to be very outstanding. The main camera improves mainly because it has a good color saturation, although it still maintains a lot of noise present in the scene. When there's a light source present, it won't expose correctly either, which is understandable given the range. It's important to note that when we move to a very dark area, it makes an effort to try capturing the light. However, at least when recording in 4K, we do not achieve such a nice result. However, keep in mind that even when recording in K, it does include digital stabilization. This feature might be disabled on certain mid-range devices offering 4K recording. I expected that it is uncommon to find K recording in this category, yet finding K with stabilization is even rarer. It's true that while running, it won't suffice, but for straightforward scenes, it stabilizes quite effectively. If your plan is to go out for a run, you have the option to activate the Super Stable mode. This mode, however, comes with a trade-off, as the resolution will drop to Full HD. While the stabilization might not appear as spectacular as in other modes, I must emphasize that having a mode specifically designed for more action-packed scenes is indeed a welcome feature. Nevertheless, I observed that the focus performance is not as impressive. We conducted multiple tests and there were instances where the device's response seemed slower than expected. Therefore, I believe this is a factor worth considering. The rest of the video recording factors are very good. Note that it even offers slow motion. Though in HD at 120 frames per second, it's not so appealing. It does have a super slow motion mode that looks good, but again, just for a time lapse. It's HD and can reach 480 frames per second, but only for time lapse. However, when it comes to creative scenes, this device is excellent. I believe it offers something unique that no other device in this price range can provide you with. We will also discover a fast camera mode that, if it comes stabilized and with a variable speed adjustment starting from 5x, can be quite useful for recording movements of people or while walking. It can reach up to 60x, which is suitable for capturing good movements of landscapes. Although it is not the most spectacular, as other devices do allow us to reach 960x or even more, it still offers a good performance, though not the best in its range. I love that the front camera records in K, offering great detail. In this price range, nothing else offers this, especially on promotion, of its most attractive points. Overall, the video recording I liked, although the framing is a bit close due to the stabilization, so you have to stretch the arm to the maximum and it could generate a bit of grain in the darker areas. When recording in 4K, however, the truth is that the quality remains quite good. It's important to note that even while running, it consistently maintains image stabilization. Adequate enough, but this is precisely why the framing is quite close. Therefore, if you wish to be well framed, you'll need to stretch your arm significantly. Additionally, take note that the backlight performance is indeed very impressive, something quite unusual and unexpected that you don't often find in smartphones. And most of them record in full HD. This one even in 4K maintains a good performance in backlight. It is quite impressive how well it records with the front camera at night. When you have a more or less static scene, the result is actually quite good. However, if there's more movement involved, you will notice it appears a bit more grainy. Yet, considering the price range, I believe the recording quality holds up well. It's important to be in front of a good light source for the result to be satisfactory. If you venture into more challenging lighting conditions, the performance might vary. In dimly lit areas, noise increases, leading to poor results. Additionally, the darkest parts show a slight pink tint, which isn't ideal. Even Samsung's high-end models have faced these issues. Here on the front camera, we also find the time-lapse mode, which behaves similarly to what we observed for the rear camera. However, we lack slow motion and a dual recording mode. Now, you might miss these features as they are available on some other devices. When it comes to software, this device is equipped with Android 15 and One UI 7. Naturally, it includes the latest features from both Google and Samsung. Importantly, this device promises 6 years of security patch updates and 6 years of software updates. This means it will remain up to date over time, which is a significant advantage that I believe no other device in this category can offer you. Regarding customization, we'll find. Note that on the lock screen, we can add system widgets. We can't add home screen widgets, but there are good options, even images. So there are numerous and plentiful widgets that are available for use on this lock screen. Moreover, we will also have the ability to touch the clock, allowing us to change the typography, alter the color, and even modify the style, which means it provides us with a really great level of customization options that we can enjoy. In this regard, finally, we can also customize the shortcuts available in the bottom corners and on the home screen. It is important to note that we also have a really good variety of widgets. In this generation, Samsung has redesigned many widgets to look incredibly attractive. In fact, observe that we can add them and customize them to our liking. In this case, it has a different shape, but we can go into the settings of these system widgets and make changes. The kind of formatting shown in this background and whether we prefer a light or dark format along with full transparency adjustment. So these system widgets are designed exceptionally well. And I must emphasize that they come with a vast array of elements that we can position. Furthermore, it's important to highlight that we have the option to place a stack of widgets. In other words, we can position another widget in this area, and you'll notice that scrolling will be possible. In order to switch between different widgets on the home screen, we have the ability to change the size of the icons. Additionally, we can remove the text labels and adjust the grid size. Furthermore, we can even disable the first page that comes by default with Google Discover. I believe it offers numerous elements to customize your device. In fact, in the application drawer, the default setting is the vertical scroll, but we also have the option to change it. For a custom order with the setting by, lets you disable the app drawer if you prefer everything on the home screen. By default, the device includes a system color palette. However, we have the option to pull colors directly from our wallpaper, or alternatively, we can select any palette we prefer to paint system icons and various other features. The device also comes equipped with a theme store where we will have access to a wide array of customization options. Some of these are available for free, while others are paid. Additionally, we can explore a variety of wallpapers. We can even include icon packs as well as always on display covers, because this device indeed supports this particular feature. Regarding always on display, it's noteworthy that we can set it to always on, making it a true always on display, unlike other devices. Alternatively, we can configure it to activate only in specific scenarios when we tap the screen at scheduled times or upon receiving new notifications. This level of customization is truly impressive. And note that it also includes the Now bar, a feature that debuted on the Galaxy S25 series. This Now bar is designed to display real-time information such as data about your favorite teams and sports that are connected to Google. Additionally, it can provide us with more detailed information from the media player and other applications. Take note, for instance, that if we initiate an audio recording, it will be minimized within this capsule located at the top. Furthermore, if we lock the screen, it will still be displayed. On the Neo bar, which in this particular instance is positioned at the top, it gives off a somewhat unusual appearance because of where the fingerprint reader is placed. This placement makes it appear a little odd, but despite its strange look, it functions in exactly the same manner as expected. You can transition to display a few more controls and buttons. In the case of the media player, we'll also have the cover preview displayed, along with additional buttons. The same scenario will occur for the lock screen, where we can view the cover and have access to all the controls. As for the control center, it's important to note that it appears customized in a different manner. When you compare it to past generations, it is separate from the notification panel. However, it's interesting to note that here, it appears somewhat repetitive to also include the player notification, By default, it arrives in this distinct format. Nevertheless, you have the option to edit it so that everything appears together directly in the same setup. Notice that we must swipe down again to see full controls. You choose your preferred setting. You can also rearrange these settings as you like, or even modify the quick settings similar to previous generations. The device features a style of pop-up notifications that enables us to activate some visual effects around the screen. We can even personalize its color and the effects it displays. In this regard, the color is automatically extracted based on the application. However, you have the complete freedom to customize how you want it to appear. You can even personalize it by keyword, allowing it to light up in a distinct color. Moreover, keep in mind that when you receive a notification of this type, you have the option to swipe down, making it appear in a different color. To open in floating mode, resize and place it as you like, or slide it to minimize. You can also minimize it in bubble form and delete it by dragging downwards. From the edge panels, we will have the ability to open these applications in a floating mode by sliding them to the center. It's important to remember that in this case, we can open numerous applications in this format simultaneously. In fact, we can open as many as 5 applications at the same time. Right here in a floating format with windows, something truly extraordinary happens. Just imagine that in this particular case, the inside of the application does not get resized, so it remains in its natural size, and consequently you end up losing a significant amount of space. However, if you install Good Lock, which is an official Samsung app, you could install some modules that allow you to make the apps look smaller when they are running in windowed format, which would be much more useful. From the edge panels, we can also. To open the applications in split screen mode, observe that here it gives us the suggestion of the applications that we already have open, so that they are working. In this way, we can resize them. If we leave, they are linked in the list of recent applications, and we can also add a shortcut to the home screen so that with a single touch, we can open both applications at the same time. In this case, besides the application shortcuts panel, there are other edge panels available. Although you can't download more panels from the Galaxy Store now, there's one for quick contact access to call or message people. Another panel can be enabled for specific app tasks, not just shortcuts. Inside the applications, even though in this particular situation it is only compatible with the system applications. Within the experimental features section, we have the option to enable every single application to operate with compatibility for both floating windows and multi-window functionality. Now, this is something that other brands are not able to offer, making it a significant advantage from Samsung. And you can also force YouTube to display in dark mode. You can also enable various gestures so that the device automatically turns on when you pick it up or similar things, and you can have the screenshot gesture by sliding your whole hand over it, although it's a gesture that I personally find doesn't always work well. I think sliding 3 fingers like most manufacturers suggest would be best, but since it's not here, a screenshot will do. When it comes to complexity with gestures, the simplest method will be pressing the power button along with the volume down button. Additionally, there's a scroll capture feature to include more content than what a single screen can display. Of course, you can edit this image to add annotations. However, it doesn't offer options to censor content or similar features. So I believe its screenshot editor isn't that advanced. However, one good aspect is that if you have the ability to configure how screenshots and screen recordings behave, you might, for instance, set them to be deleted automatically after being taken. When you press the share button, you have the option to hide both the navigation bar and the status bar. Additionally, you can choose the capture format and even decide in which folder they will be saved. For screen recordings, you have the ability to set the audio source, and you can also adjust the video quality. If you want to display your front camera, you can choose its size, and you can decide whether or not you want the touches to be visible. Once again, you can also select the destination folder for your recordings. The device is equipped with a feature known as Video Effects, which is compatible with various video applications. This feature allows you to substitute the background with either a solid color or an image that you have previously chosen from your gallery. Observe how during video calls we can scroll down the control center and enable these video effects. Then we can enable this background option so that we can blur the background or also apply the solid color that I mentioned a moment ago, or even place the background image that was previously selected from your gallery. Chosen earlier. Therefore, it provides excellent tools that are typically not available in other devices. In addition to the background replacement feature, it includes facial beauty effects, which subtly blur the skin without being overly dramatic. Moreover, it offers an automatic framing function, ensuring we remain perfectly centered even while moving during our call. These features make it an exceptional choice for enhancing our video call experience, offering both practicality and aesthetic improvements. So it offers excellent tools for anything related to video calls and conferencing. It includes the Galaxy Avatar feature, letting you create a character with many options. Here I pick a default option, but you can create one from your photo or customize it step by step. Notice the many hairstyles, colors, facial hair, face shapes and skin tones, even chin types to choose from. And if you're looking to add wrinkles, makeup effects or even moles and other details on the skin, you have plenty of options. The style of the eyebrows, eyes and eye makeup, as well as the shape of the nose can all be adjusted. In short, there are numerous options available to customize your character. Additionally, clothing options are included, as the device lets you add your own clothes by simply taking a picture to apply the same pattern. With these features, you have a wide array of choices to create a unique character. The only downside is the character's animations are too feminine for my taste, but customization is quite extreme. Once finished, press save and you can sync it with your Samsung account for use in other services and auto-generate stickers for your keyboard. The issue with these stickers is that in practice, like on WhatsApp, they're sent as images, which makes them less appealing. Interestingly, you can create your own stickers by altering background colors, adding animations, and placing them wherever you want, including facial expressions or body actions. So, as you can see, there are quite a lot of different options available. You can also take full advantage of it in the avatar camera section. Here, we will be able to record a video featuring our own character in this manner, or even have a complete scene. Additionally, you can create profile cards for your contacts so that when they call you, you see an animation with their own characters. You can actually create videos not just for calls, but also for the lock screen using default animations. These animations let you enjoy additional effects from your own character. There are even some animations that give you the ability to add two different characters to interact with each other. So, there are truly a lot of options available. The device also comes with the modes and routines feature, which will allow us to automate our device in various ways. For instance, in sleep mode, you can specify that certain applications are disabled, that the wallpaper changes, and more. The same applies to the rest of the modes. And within the routines, you have the ability to automate absolutely everything you desire. For instance, you are able to add a trigger that serves as a condition. There are many options, but here I'll choose the trigger as exercising, synced with our watch. First, configure Samsung Health. When it detects exercise, it can activate other things. It activates when we're exercising. Fascinating, you can also instruct it to recognize the specific exercise you're doing, which alters its behavior. Here, I'll choose for any exercise I do. The result will be that the sound is set to a much higher volume so I can hear it clearly when someone calls me or something like that. Anyway, you can set up various routines with different conditions and results. If you don't want to overthink it, there's a section to explore where you can. Samsung offers routine suggestions, but you can make your own powerful routine catalog. We could spend hours on this gallery section. Remember, this device lets you hold down to extract a snippet of the people. It's important to note that it will be floating, and I can even exit this application, switch to another one, and then release it. Interestingly, in this situation, it still hasn't been sent as a sticker. If you hold down and press though, so if you can send it as a sticker by pressing paste from the keyboard, then I believe Samsung should really optimize this to fully utilize their stickers to the maximum 100%. We could also extract text directly from the photos by pressing and holding on an area where there is text. Although it seems to be a bit slow, the best way is to press the T button located in this spot to select the text more quickly. However, it works in both ways. Additionally, you can select multiple photos to create either a collage or an animation, which is quite useful. And as you might already know, this feature allows for a lot of creativity and flexibility. GIF includes a basic video editor for adding scenes. Finally, I would like to remind you that Samsung also offers an application known as Members, which will enable us to enjoy a wide range of benefits associated with owning a Galaxy. Therefore, if you are someone who typically makes the most of coupons, special promotions, and additional offers, take note that there are excellent benefits available here. These benefits are not limited to the Samsung store alone, but extend to clothing stores, various restaurants, and much more, as Samsung has a very good collaborations to be able to offer various benefits to its users. So in general, the software is one of its strongest points. Now let's take some time to discuss artificial intelligence, which Samsung has interestingly named Awesome Intelligence in this context. To begin with, let's examine what this particular button offers. You'll notice that it performs an analysis to provide you with intelligence suggestions. Specifically, in this instance, it would automatically offer us the available object eraser feature by default, as it searches for it. Although in this case, there is no such clear suggestion, but I'm going to delete the protagonist of the image, so I'm just going to enclose. Notice that it automatically does the detection, and then I can press the delete button. It will do the fill with generative artificial intelligence, and that's it. It is not as accurate as Samsung's high-end, but it does perform well enough. In fact, it could also erase shadows or reflections. Then watch with this example how it will give us another suggestion of erasing. The shadows are analyzed and then it provides me with a suggestion. Here's the result. Observe how it appeared before and how it appears afterward. Clearly, the system performs quite well in attempting to remove these bothersome shadows that might be created in certain environments. In other scenarios, like taking pictures through glass, it is quite useful as it will recommend removing reflections. Once more, it will conduct an analysis to attempt to enhance this photograph and observe the results, like a glass. The change is quite noticeable. It doesn't eliminate reflections completely, but it does significantly improve photo quality. Unlike the Galaxy 56, it doesn't include face editing, which would be beneficial. It can capture motion photos, enhancing the picture, but if someone doesn't look good, there's no option to fix it. I wish it had that feature. What it indeed brings is the background blur option, allowing you to transform your traditional photo into a portrait-style photo featuring an interesting blur effect for the background with its own intensity selector. Also take note that for low-resolution photos, or if you attempt to crop your image to extract a photo, the device has the capability to remaster the image, making it appear more detailed. Simply press this button once more and select remaster. So you notice that if you could enhance the level of detail in this image when saving it, and definitely it would make a significant difference. It appears significantly improved. So these are the artificial intelligence features that are integrated into the gallery. However, within Samsung's web browser, there is an additional feature to note. Remember, it doesn't function in Google Chrome, only in Samsung's browser. When you are reading an article, you'll notice again this button, allowing the device to read it aloud, which can be very useful. Although in this particular case, it's not very intelligent because it will read everything completely. Everything present in the article, including special notes and more, unlike Samsung high-end that filters specifically to read only the article's content. Finally, please remember that it also includes Circle to search from Google. By pressing and holding down the home button, you'll notice that it opens this interface. Here, with just a single touch, you can translate the entire screen's content, allowing you to read it comfortably in your own language. Or you can enclose an element to search for, like finding a place we are going to locate. Let's close this and see if we can find some information. Observe how it provides us with the result right here. Therefore, this method is an easy way to search. Things to purchase or places you enjoyed. This is a feature that was developed by Google, although it isn't available on all Android devices. Lastly, we also have Gemini, which is another feature created by Google. It's available on all Android devices. It acts like an intelligent chat, almost as if you were having a conversation with a friend. You can even share your screen and chat about whatever you are watching together. Additionally, you have the option to switch to a video call mode by turning on your camera, or simply opt for a voice call if that's what you prefer. So it's similar to having a conversation with a very intelligent friend, whether that's through text chat, voice chat, sharing your camera, or even sharing your screen. It's truly quite intelligent. Moreover, it's accessible on all Android devices, and in this scenario, you can activate it by pressing and holding the side button. Samsung also has its own voice assistant called Bixby. Available on this phone, here in the side button settings, you can select if you want to use Google Gemini or want to use Bixby. Remember that Bixby will be a little smarter to interact with parameters of your phone. Google is going to be smarter about searching for information on the internet. In this case, Bixby is available in several languages, including Latin American Spanish, and for example, you could ask it to open the camera and take a selfie and observe that if it is interesting. Smart to use the system things, although in this case it is taking a little longer than it should, but it did indeed open the camera in selfie mode and started the photo capture. If you like system interactions, use Bixby. For internet searches and smarter use, choose Gemini. Regarding security, the device includes an in-screen fingerprint reader that supports up to 3 records, making it more limited than other options. It is an optical fingerprint reader, typical for this price range, and also includes basic facial recognition. Samsung provides slightly more advanced recognition by detecting lenses and additional features. Samsung Pass is now integrated, and as you might know, it's combined with Samsung Wallet. Within this, you'll find your password manager, confidential notes, and various other pieces of information easily accessible right at your fingertips directly on the keyboard. This feature ensures that all types of secure content are well protected. Notably, this is a unique feature not found on any other mobile device. For those who are less experienced, there's an automatic blocker included. This feature restricts numerous system options that might otherwise make the device vulnerable. If you are a more advanced user, you will surely disable this option at some point. It also integrates a secure folder, which you already know, that allows us to safeguard applications and files, all protected by your fingerprint or a password that can be different from the lock screen. You already know that this secure folder is quite advanced, which even allows us to change the icon or the name of the application to make it go more unnoticed. So its operation is remarkably good. Samsung provides the Wi-Fi feature. The Samsung Secure VPN is a private VPN that proves extremely useful when you connect to public Wi-Fi networks. This is a feature not available on other phones, making it quite unique. They provide either a free plan or an unlimited plan, available at an extra cost. Additionally, it integrates the dual messenger option, which allows you to clone messaging applications. This means you can conveniently maintain 2 separate accounts on the same cell phone, which is quite beneficial. Our Samsung Kids let you choose safe apps for kids. Samsung suggests some, but you can turn them on or off completely to your liking, and you can even explore the statistics of how long the cell phone has been used. You can set time limits, allowed times, as well as apps that you want running at all times. So even if you are going to give this cell phone to a child, you could have this mode activated and have a better parental control, since a fingerprint verification is required to exit this mode. Samsung includes its digital wellness settings, unlike other Android makers, for a smoother experience. If you lose your phone, you can use Samsung's service to find it. Their device network helps you locate the phone without the internet, as long as a Galaxy phone is nearby. This is another interesting feature of this phone. It also integrates a maintenance mode, so that all content is blocked when you send to repair the phone if necessary. And finally, it has a collaboration with McAfee to have an integrated antivirus and scanning with, to defend against any kind of malware threat. This protection is in addition to all the Google tools such as Play Protect and the anti-theft features that are available. In the description below, I have included a link where you can explore the security tools that Google provides for Android devices. However, keep in mind that these tools are also shared with other devices as well. The battery capacity is 5000 mAh. In my foreground draining test, it fell a little short, reaching just over 4H. In the background draining, it went up almost to 5H, meaning that the battery is not that spectacular, but at least the operating system seems to try to make the most of it. In my test playing YouTube videos with the screen brightness set to 50% reached 13H with 46 min. The truth was very short, so playing videos is not a big deal. In fact, came to disappoint a little. Therefore, based on the type of activity you're engaging in, it is likely that you will need to utilize the saving mode. This mode can be set up in the usual manner, or alternatively, you have the option to enable a specific setting for. Switch to a significantly more aggressive saving mode, which will limit more options and could be beneficial in emergency situations. The device is capable of supporting charging at 45 watts, but it's important to note that the charger must be purchased separately, which is a notable drawback. However, unlike some other manufacturers, it's worth mentioning that you can utilize power very near the maximum limit, though this is typically only possible during the initial charging phase, as shown in the graph. It gradually adjusts the power to protect the battery, but in my test it reached 35% in 15 minutes. In 30 minutes to 68%, which is impressive for the cell phone, and the full charge was completed in 1 hour and 11 minutes. To better manage the battery, it includes a smart charging mode that charges slowly overnight and completes when you're about to wake up, or a charging lock between 80 and 95% if you need it plugged in continuously. For connectivity, it comes very complete with support for 5G networks, including a data lock option for you to select which apps will not be able to access the internet using your mobile data, but only Wi-Fi. And while we're on the subject, it also has Wi-Fi 6, giving a good download speed. Here, it should simply be noted that it does not have eSIM, which would make it much easier to add new data plans by scanning QR codes instead of buying physical SIM cards. It includes Bluetooth version 5.4 and NFC technology, enabling mobile payments with Google Pay or similar apps. Additionally, through the USB 2 port, you have the ability to connect various accessories. OTG. What you cannot do is project the screen via cable, but if you can do it wirelessly through Smart View, that brings quite intelligent functions, so that it is not only a mere projection, but you can even project just an application while doing other things on the phone and this kind of advanced features. Just note that in this case does not bring Samsung DeX. That is reserved for more expensive cell phones. What it does integrate is Android Auto. And as for sensors, in addition to accelerometer, geomagnetic field sensor, orientation and gyroscope, we will find a contact proximity sensor, i.e. it is activated only when you are fully in contact with this upper area of the screen. So its behavior is a bit strange, but at least it is not a virtual sensor. Samsung's ecosystem is one of its greatest strengths, featuring Galaxy Buds, Galaxy Watch, Galaxy Ring, Galaxy Tab, and in some areas, Galaxy Book. Samsung provides an app named Galaxy Wearable, allowing you to connect multiple devices. And every accessory, along with all the additional components, will function exceptionally well. Therefore, when we talk about the number of available accessories, Samsung really offers a wide range of excellent tools. Additionally, when considering the interconnectivity features among these devices, Samsung stands out. For instance, we have Quick Share, a feature initially developed by Samsung, which was later integrated with various technologies from Google, enhancing its functionality and user experience. It also includes Music Share, allowing you to play the same song across several devices simultaneously. You can seamlessly connect your Galaxy Buds between your tablet and your cell phone, making it easy to switch between them. Additionally, you can conveniently answer calls and messages from other devices using the same Samsung account, as well as continue using apps like Samsung Notes and the web browser across multiple devices. Furthermore, it offers direct integration with Windows connection, eliminating the need for numerous configuration steps. If you own a Galaxy Book, you can use multi-control to share the cursor on your laptop, phone and tablet. But note, the Galaxy Book isn't officially sold in Mexico. Samsung also offers a smart TV platform letting you connect various smart devices. You can link devices from different brands for smart home use. What I truly appreciate the most is that it's not just limited to being compatible with Samsung devices. Here, you have the opportunity to explore and view the entire list of brands that are compatible. Samsung has established excellent partnerships with numerous manufacturers, allowing you to add and control them directly through this app. Furthermore, Samsung provides its own App Store, which is included as part of its services and the integrated ecosystem they offer. Find promos and apps optimized for Galaxy here. It also has its own health platform, Samsung Health, which will be available for use across its other services as well. So Samsung's ecosystem is pretty widespread. What I would like to see it improve would be its cloud storage. As for now, it relies on its own partnerships, one with OneDrive that gives you 5 GB and one with Google Drive that gives you 15 GB. Only in Samsung's gallery they give priority to the OneDrive integration. It would be nice if Samsung would allow us to select which cloud storage service we want to connect to if it is not going to offer us its own cloud. So specifically this I would like to see corrected. Let's test the Galaxy A36. 5G with the Snapdragon Gen 3 processor, 6 GB of RAM and 128 GB storage in this app test. It took 4.3s to open each app, showing it slow in demanding tests with many apps. But now let's take a moment to examine how the RAM memory, which has 6 GB, behaves. For instance, when switching between the last 4 applications that we opened, you'll notice that it is performing adequately. However, if you observe that the animations appear somewhat frozen or are stumbling, then it's not performing very well when you have too many things open. This is going to be a phone that will only allow you to have a maximum of 5 or 6 apps open simultaneously while still maintaining good performance. Note that if I go to the first application I opened, there will be a white screen and reboot. I believe that the same situation will occur with the other applications. Samsung is a manufacturer known for consuming a significant amount of RAM in its operating system because of the vast number of options it integrates. However, this works against it when evaluating performance, as it tends to operate quite slowly. When returning to these apps with many open, I stress that optimal device performance is with fewer apps open. It sure behaves really bad with many things open. So in this scenario, let's keep 5 applications open simultaneously. This way you can review and observe how it performs. It's important to note that if you have 5 applications running and the performance is good, it will be essential to close any applications you aren't actively using. This will help maintain optimal performance. Without a doubt, this is the device's weakest point. The RAM memory is somewhat limited, and considering that it's a Galaxy, it definitely requires more memory than what is available. RAM, if you really want to keep up the performance, far better with multiple apps open. Supposedly, this device includes a feature known as RAM+. This is a type of virtual RAM memory, which has already been shown to be ineffective. By default, it comes with 4 GB, and I would suggest turning it off because it really doesn't work. As for internal storage, we have 128 GB, which just meets the basic requirements. It's important to note that other manufacturers are starting to include 256 GB, even in mid-range devices. So, in every aspect related to performance, this device identifies its strengths. Weaker. Fortunately, here's a detailed breakdown of what is consuming the most space. You can log in to delete files, images, or similar content. Additionally, note that it will show us duplicate files, large files, or provide one-tap access to trash. However, there are other manufacturers that also allow you to filter by similar photos and offer smarter features to free up internal storage space more efficiently. Also note we lack a micro SD card slot here, which is a big drawback. Let's check the device's storage speed. The read speed is 1009 MB, write speed is lower at 410 MB, and RAM between 240 and 288 MB, but that's for the tech savvy. Now let's proceed with a real-life test, exporting a video that has a total duration of 1 minute in full HD, recorded using this device. Even though this device is capable of recording in 4K, we opted to conduct the test in full HD due to the price range it competes in. Observe that it took 20 seconds, so I believe it had a reasonable duration. It can compete effectively in this aspect, as long as you have only the video editor open. For games, we'll find the Gaming Hub, a full center to play without installing, saving storage, though they're simple games. Our game library is also here, and we have the ability to run them silently and directly from this section. It's important to note that within the settings, we will also discover the Game Booster function. Here, we have the option to select the performance profile that we wish to use. Additionally, we can individually assign whether we prefer to prioritize frames per second or focus on image quality, along with other customizable settings. Here, choose between 120 or 60 Hz to save energy. If using a power delivery charger, activate this option to send energy directly to phone components, bypassing the battery. This avoids heating and battery wear, ideal for long gaming sessions. You can additionally personalize how the shortcuts are displayed, which we will look at in a moment, and rearrange the tools that will be available to you. You can also modify which applications will be available to open in a floating window. In just a moment, I'll show you how it works. Lastly, if you'd like to automatically enable this touch protection to conserve energy, you'll notice that by default, this small bar appears. We can move it to reveal more options. The first important step is to lock the screen when the game is downloading content, as this helps prevent additional battery drain. Furthermore, we will also discover the option of, to avoid leaving by accident, you can take a screenshot, make a screen recording, or lock the navigation bar. You have the option to block the edge panels and the automatic brightness, given that when playing games, it's common to cover the automatic brightness sensor. To prevent the brightness from decreasing, you can perform this action. Moreover, you can block the voice assistant to ensure that 100% of resources are dedicated to the game. As you can observe, it doesn't have as many tools compared to some other devices, including older generations of Saturn. This can be helpful in optimizing your gaming experience. Add plugins to enhance gaming, but now it's simpler. One thing you can do is open applications in a window format to reply to a message or do something similar while you are playing. However, it lacks certain functions like changing the notification style or mapping the volume buttons to virtual buttons, among other features we find in other devices. Therefore, I believe the gaming experience is somewhat simpler, and in this case, we couldn't really classify it as a strong point. In Call of Duty, this device is set by default to high quality at a very high rate. It's important to note that you can even increase it to the maximum rate while still maintaining high graphic quality. Additionally, it offers several effects that can truly stand out within its price range. From a compatibility perspective, we already see something positive, because in this price range, many other manufacturers tend to offer much simpler processors, which unfortunately does not provide us with the ability to access the most advanced and sophisticated graphics that are available in this particular type of content. Additionally, performance has been positive, averaging 60 frames per second, and without too much heating on the external part. So the experience in this game has been really very good, something that is not so common in Galaxy devices that are not usually very good for games, but this model seems to have had a good experience. In Legends, we changed the automatic setting to A. In Legends, with medium settings at 60 FPS, we noticed it sometimes tries to hit 120 FPS, causing more instability. But then, as it happens in other cell phones, it tried to stabilize at 60 frames per second and only had some low peaks that are very traditional of this game. The truth is, we saw great performance at 80 frames per second on average. It initially aimed for 120 but was stable otherwise. It would maintain an average very close to 60 with a stable, very good, and again without excessive heating. In SpongeBob, the default is high resolution and quality. In this test, we reduced both parameters to a medium level while maintaining 60 frames per second and keeping smoothing disabled. With this setup, the performance was once again very good. However, when recording the screen, you can notice that the performance is not as optimal. But overall, it's a device that offers a great gaming experience. This is quite unexpected. As Samsung usually, the Genshin offers a very balanced experience in many ways, but in gaming it usually has its weakest points. However, this model seems that it will also be very balanced, including the gaming section. Finally, we played Genshin Impact, which by default is set at a low level. We kept it there, but we raised it up to 60 frames per second to see what it was capable of, and in this case, if you notice much greater instability, there is enough fluctuation in the frames per second, although fortunately the drops do not become so serious. Note that the lowest that came was 34 frames per second, the highest was 60. So anyway, if it is above 30 frames per second, that already gives you a good gameplay, although if you get to notice some drops, then it is confirmed that it is not a device 100% focused on gaming. But in general, I insist that gives us a very balanced experience. In conclusion, like the Galaxy A36 5 grams, it's not advised to buy at launch price. Samsung often offers discounts, making it more competitive and appealing. It generally has a good design, screen, sound, and cameras, especially for video recording. The battery isn't the main highlight, and that's precisely where it might be outdone by certain competitors, particularly in terms of charging power. However, I believe that overall it manages to reach 4. Nothing else. The software is a strong point, as usual with Samsung's many options, but the impact on performance is significant, as the multitude of available options will use up a lot of RAM, making this a device best suited for users who will only keep 4 or 5 applications open at a time. Otherwise, the experience becomes quite cumbersome. You will need to frequently close the applications you aren't actively using to ensure a smooth experience. However, even when it comes to video editing, the experience won't be satisfactory. Or in games, it performs well with few tasks running. In summary, it is a great device that becomes even more appealing if you manage to find it with some great promotions. For now, we have arrived at the conclusion of this video. I truly hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, you know you can let us know. We'll see you in the next one.